on the lesson that we've had there. Today's lesson is to do with who the Hebrew Israelites are, how we ended up in Africa, to describe who they were, the original 12 tribes, who they are today, the descendants of them today, that these Jews that claim to be Jews are not the true Jews, and that the true Hebrew Israelites are those 12 tribes who I've spoken about earlier. And to also tell you, like I said before, how the 10 lost tribes, because they talk about the 10 lost tribes, when Christ is coming to bring back the 12 tribes together. So the 10 lost tribes has to be found today for Yahushua to come back and to get the stick of Israel and the stick of Judah and bind them together and make it back one again. He can't do that unless he comes back and finds the 10 tribes. So they have to be here today. And this is who they were. And just to recap on how the 10 tribes ended up in America, I'll just read this once more to you, because I think it's very important that you know who these people are in the Americas, who these people that were killed, that genocide was committed against them by these Europeans, by the Spaniards, the French, the Germans, the English, the Swedish, all these European nations that went over to the Americas and that committed genocide, that was all involved in the slave trade of the tribes. They all knew who we were. Yeah, you got to remember, when these people came to the Americas and they were desecrating the graves of the Indian chiefs, looking for gold and diamonds and the rest of it, what were they finding? Everything that was in Hebrew written in language, Hebrew ceremonies. They went there and they found the original Paleo-Hebrew written on the stones in the wilderness in Mexico, the Dos Lascaux stone in Mexico, and all different parts of America. In Kentucky they found another stone with the commandments on it written in Paleo-Hebrew and the different laws and that. So they know who these Indians were. They tried to call them the red people and this and that, when they were not red. They were all different shades of brown. Yeah? They were black, all different shades. When I say black, I mean all different shades of brown, and that's what they were. Yeah, they were not red people. The only red people that are known on this planet Earth are the white people, the Edomites, Esau's descendants. White people are red. They're not white, they are red because their blood shows through them. But because they know that when the Bible speaks about who these red people are, the Edomites, the devils, they try to say, oh, the North American Indians were, which they are not. They were never red, never were red, never will be red. They are different shades of brown. So just to recap how they got there. This is this is Esdras 2, Esdras in the Apocrypha, chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasseh the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. Now the another land that they went into was originally was from Israel, where is it, to Assyria, because they lived here on the other side of the Jordan. So they carried them over the rivers, and then they carried them over. You got the Euphrates, yeah, river here, and into Assyria, into their kingdom Assyria. That's where they carried them. So sorry if you didn't see that. They took them from here, from the northern kingdom, over the waters. Here was the Euphrates rivers, into the Assyrian, to their kingdom. That's where they lived, and that's where the Assyrian king Shalmaneser took them, the 10 tribes, captive. He didn't go into Judah. He didn't go into Judah because it wasn't prophesied. The Lord had prophesied that the kingdom was going to split, and that the 10 tribes were going to be taken away into captivity. And the reason why is because the 10 tribes were going on with some heathenistic Babylonian worshipping, practicing. They were living like heathens. They were doing all kinds of wickedness in the land. They was doing. So it was the Most High's punishment to take them away into captivity, because they were not following God's laws, commandments and statutes. Every time the Israelites did not follow the Most High's laws, commandments and statutes, the Most High would use another nation to take them into captivity. That's standard. That happened on numerous times. They would go into captivity for 10, 20 years. They would pray to the Most High for forgiveness, for trespass of their sins. They would be relieved from their captivity. They'd come back to their homeland, and after living in their homeland for 10 or 15 years, 20 years, 30, 40 years, they would they would start doing, they would forget their customs again and start doing and all this heathenistic Babylonian stuff and worshipping idols and sacrificing their children on fires and doing all these wicked things, not following the God's laws, commandments and statutes. And then the Lord would get another nation who would be in power, take them into captivity. That's why they went into captivity so many times. They went into captivity by the Babylonians, by the Assyrians, by the Egyptians, by the Syrians themselves as well. The Most High used these nations to chastise Israel. So slavery was part of our chastisement for us not following the Most High's laws, commandments and statutes. The destruction of Jerusalem was the Most High's chastisement because we weren't following the laws, commandments and statutes. So every time Israelites went into slavery, it was chastisement by the Lord. So you must truly understand that, why we're in this state today, how we got there. Because we stopped following our forefathers, stopped following the Most High's laws, commandments and statutes. So that was our punishment. Chastisement, captivity. Always. It's happened more than once. If you read Chronicles, if you read Kings in the Bible, it will tell you. And if you read Deuteronomy, it will tell you what's going to happen to you if we stop following the laws, commandments and statutes. So you must truly understand that. So anyway, just to recap, says those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasseh the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel amongst themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen. So these are the Israelites taking a counsel amongst themselves that after being in the captivity of the Syrians, that we're going to leave them now, of the heathen, and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. So even they knew that the influence of all these heathens living around them came into their society, that even they knew that. They knew why they were under punishment. They knew it then, but we now don't know it, because back then they knew they were Israelites, whereas now we don't know that. Slavery was what they used to brainwash that from us. When we wasn't allowed to read, write, study, and not to learn our culture, speak our language, and they changed our names, our language, everything about us. Well, so that we would forget who we were. But back then, when the Israelites went into captivity, they always knew they were Israelites. They knew about the Most High, Yahweh Shai, they knew about the prophets, they knew about their forefathers, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. But we didn't know this, because they spent 400 years of having us in captivity from the 15th century to the 19th century to totally remove that from us. And I tell you, it worked a picture. So they knew that, so they said that, but they took counsel amongst themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates, which I'll show you again. You got the Euphrates, captivity into the Euphrates. They entered, it says there, they entered the Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river. Yeah, so that's where they've gone into the Euphrates, with the narrow passage of the river. By the narrow patch of the river, for the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. So he held the waves and the seas and the ocean till they had passed over, yeah? For through the country there was a great way to go, namely of 1.5 years, and the same region is called Ashereth. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and how when they shall become, and now when they shall begin to come. So when the scriptures tell you about that, and now when they shall begin to come, it's talking about the rest of us joining them. The tribe of Judah, and the tribe of Benjamin, and the remnants of Levi that joined them 2,000 years later. Yeah? Well, I would say not 2,000 years, because it was about 16th century that we went into slavery, and that was, yeah, 2,000 years later, about 2,000, that was 720, that was 700 BC. So you're talking 2,300 years later, we joined them. How? By going into slavery by the Europeans. through the west coast of Africa, and it tells you in the scriptures, written in Maccabees, yeah. This was written, and this is the book of the Maccabees, and the Maccabees lived about 100 BC, and it says, then dwelt they there until the latter time, because the latter time is now, and now when they shall begin to come, and now when they shall begin to come was the rest of the two tribes, Benjamin and Levi. Benjamin went to the West Indies, Levi went to the West Indies, and Judah went to the Americas. It was just a remnant of Levi. Because some of Levi were with the 10 tribes, some of the Levi was with the other 2 tribes in Jerusalem. Because you had those that were in the priesthood, that was all the Levites from the priesthood, but they were looking after the temple, and you had those that were teaching the laws in the Southern Kingdom. So, on that, that's a wrap. I'd like to say double honours to GMS, because it's from them I've been able to edify myself on the scriptures. They are my first teachers, but through the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, who brought me back to the Most High, back to the scriptures, back to my laws, commandments and statutes, and GSM, they use GSM as my teachers, and they have taught well. So I'd like to give honours to them, to the Chicago boys, to the rest of the New York camps, to the Texas boys, to the boys down in South, to the London boys, South London boys and Dagenham boys. Double honours to you, and to all of you young black men out there who are from the nations. You need to wake up, because we're at the end. When I mean we're at the end, I'm talking probably this year, next year, but I tell you this, in my heart and in my spirit, 5 years ain't left on this thing. That everything's going to change. Everything. And when your leaders tell you things are going to get better, not at all. So you need to wake up, my brothers. Wake up. You are from the nation of Israel. You are an Israelite. If you're a descendant from those that went to captivity in the West Indies, in the Americas, or that live in Europe, and you're descendants from slavery, you know who your parents are. If they come from the West Indies, they're descendants from slavery. If they come from the Americas, they're descendants from slavery. That's who you are. And to my North American and South American indigenous people, not you white Europeans that live out there now pretending to be Argentinians and Brazilians and the rest. I'm talking about the indigenous South, North America, Canadians, indigenous. In the name of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai, Barakatah.